Just got done reading San Fransicko by Michael Shellenberger, Why Progressives Ruin Cities. So yeah, one day I was out jogging with somebody, right? And they were saying, we were running and talking, and they were saying, "Oh man, it's kind of a bummer, but I can't wait to. It's a good thing that when I die, the Earth is going to be ruined. There's going to be global warming. All these species are going to go extinct, and so it's a good thing that I'm not going to live forever." And I was just thinking, like, wow, what a horrible way to think about life. And I was like, well, why would you think that? They're talking about, and then they started saying all the stuff about global warming, all the stuff that they read in the news articles. And I was like, you know what? How about this? I'll give you like a single book to read, maybe The Other Side, maybe The World Is Not So Grim. And then, okay, yeah, she took me up on the offer, and then I recommended Michael Shellenberger's, what is it called? Apocalypse Never. Now, I'm not an expert on global warming or catastrophes, but at least if you're going to be so upset about global warming, you might as well at least read The Other Side, give the balance. I'm not saying that he's 100% right, or I'm not qualified to judge the science, but at least read a different perspective. So maybe you have a not such a depressing outview on your life. And here it is. Here's another book by him about, this time not about global warming, but anybody can see that. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to see that the progressives are running New York and San Francisco, Los Angeles, and they get elected on the ideology of, well, we're progressives. That's in our name. Progress is in our name, right? We're gonna solve homelessness. These greedy Republicans, they're all pro-business. They're all bought and sold. So we can see why it sucks under them. But under us, we're gonna make progress on this. We're gonna tax the rich, and we're gonna solve homelessness, cure poverty, and stop gang violence, and all. The list of promises is endless. But then anybody with two eyes can see that, wow, that's actually, even having a progressive supermajority, actually things are getting worse. Even though, well, apparently you have to take them at their word that they have good intentions. And this book kind of dives in on two issues. The first is homeless. The second one is crime. I mean, from my standpoint of view, there's a bunch of other reasons why progressives will actually ruin the future, as far as like heavy taxation that really kills growth for future generations. But whatever. He's going to focus on two important issues, and him being a progressive or liberal himself gives it credence. It's not just a conservative Thomas Sowell or somebody, or Larry the Elder wagging their finger. It's more about like, hey, we're going to get into the actual reasons, statistical reasons here. So the homeless is basically, there's several issues there. One is the ideology. One, they would think that the homeless don't have any agency in themselves, and because they don't have any agency there, they divide this whole earth is oppressor and oppressed. The homeless are oppressed, therefore they can't be asked to do anything. So if they want to shoot up drugs or live in the street and kind of basically die out here in these like these crazy encampments where anything goes, and drugs are done, open air drug market, well, that's their right to do. And another train of thought also is about, well, this is the byproduct of racism, systemic oppression, this blah blah, A, B, and C, and D. So we want to make the homelessness and the suffering as visible as possible. So that may nudge the people to take action, do something political, and it's more of like, hey, It's almost on purpose, right? People's quality of life regular people that are paying taxes, their quality of life is ruined on purpose. Just, you know what I mean? So they can see, so they can be part of the suffering as well, right? What he really criticizes is this housing first policy, meaning he goes in the beginning, he goes into saying that basically there aren't that many people that actually just maybe, oh, you know, you lost a job and then you live in your car and you bounce back on your feet and you sleep on the couch. No, a lot of the people that choose to sleep on the street, and a lot of the people that are just like passed out with their pants down with like syringes, there's a combination of severe mental illness and drug addiction, right? So in order to help them, they can't, even if, well, first it's completely financially infeasible to give everybody just an apartment, because the building codes and, you know, and the limitations that are, you know, it's just too expensive. But because they they want to do a housing first policy and give everybody an apartment, they actually take away from different programs as far as like homeless shelters that are actually needed. So the main issue is there are programs that work in other parts of the world, because other parts of the world had the same issue. You know, German, Scandinavian countries. I mean, America is not the only country that faces this type of homelessness. And basically they have a carrot and stick approach, where eventually, if you do the right things, you would get your own place. But at first you got to sober up. And to sober up, you need this. You need to check yourself in. There's monitoring, and then when you become when you get into more of a clear state where you're not high on drugs, then the real progress can come. But the way they have it now, they're just let them do it. Let people defecate in the street. Let people shoot up on the street. And he interviews a person who's recovered from this type of lifestyle, and basically they're saying like, look, man, this type of laxity is really, really bad. You're not helping anybody. You think you are, but you're actually making it worse, because people are so down on their luck and just so in such a bad mental state that they know they're dying. They came there to die, right? They're going to this open air drug market. They're going to sleep where the drug dealers are. They're going to pass out with a needle in their arms, and they keep repeating it, and then knowing they're dying, and they're basically accepting that. And this type of, you're not helping anybody by letting them do this. So the first thing would be to use police to disband these open air drug markets, because if you've ever been addicted to drugs, all this stuff is kind of triggering, right? You don't need to see, if you're a recovering homeless person, addict, you don't need to see this type of stuff. You need to distribute the homeless services throughout the city, throughout the area, and completely remove this type of Skid Row areas where just like huge encampments, huge tents, massive amount of tents. That's awful, and you're not helping anybody. And this is from my experience too. I lived in LA for 12 years, and the homelessness is just getting worse. And it's not about the money. Like, the thing that triggers me the most would be, you watch a progressive show like Jimmy Dore, and he would just spout out like, oh, well, you know, this corporation got a tax break with that, whatever. Well, for that, we could have solved $20 billion. We could have solved homelessness. But if you actually cared to look into the numbers, you were interested. Instead of just demagoguing, you're actually interested about root causes or details, be a little more nuanced about it, you would see that LA and San Francisco, they spend $20 million on psychiatric care or whatever, you know what I mean? That's just a drop in the bucket. And spending more money, you're just wasting more money. This money is not being used effectively. That's why the homeless population keeps growing and growing. You know? And the second part, it has about crime. Now, if you're super into politics and super interested about every single type of like detail about what type of who commits what crime, what age group, what are statistics about police shooting or whatever, you might not really discover much. Although it's interesting to hear it, but this is not going to be any kind of new ground. However, this book is mostly for a progressive that maybe only listens to NPR, reads the New York Times, and would never come in contact with a different side, whereas it's like, hey, we're looking at statistics and actually pulling back or defunding the police actually makes crime worse. We're emboldening. He goes into a lot of the issues where the police got demoralized. They started pulling back. Basically, really progressive DAs started releasing people for, you could shoot up a street, and discharge a gun, and the DA and the charges were so lax that, the offenders would be back out in the street, then in the next day. So, and basically criminals can feel, they can feel that, right? So once they feel that it's more loose, the crime, it doesn't go as punished. Obviously, the crime is going to go up. And the theme that runs throughout this book is the different mentality. Whereas, let's say you have a recovering homeless person that completely turn their life around. They used to steal from grocery stores. They used to do drugs, this and that. But then they recovered. They took agency of their own life. And they claim responsibility for their actions. And you can contrast that with a completely different, the progressive mindset, where they don't have any agency. They're just acting throughout their, they're just being pushed around by the wind. They don't have any choice. So the only way to save them will be the system to save them, as opposed to them taking agency and responsibility for themselves. And you can kind of see this duality running throughout the book, where I'm sure the criminals that committed crime and completely rehabilitated themselves, as well as the homeless, they completely reject that view, and it empowers them. It empowers them completely to know that they're in control. If they fuck up, that's on them, as opposed to this completely awful, demoralizing thing where, hey, you're a victim, therefore you'll be homeless. You're oppressed, so well, here's you go snort these drugs, because hey, the system is against you. There's systemic racism. There's been redlining. There's this and that, whatever, and the third. So hey, what can you do about it? Overall, definitely recommend this book. Highly